Welcome to the Raw Spotlight podcast, where we feature inspiring leaders in the B2B space and share their unique stories. Let's get started with the show.
Hi, welcome to the Raw Spotlight, where we explore leadership, entrepreneurship, and digital marketing. I'm Emily Au, co-founder of Ready Outwork, joined by my business partner here, Victor Huynh. In this series, we'll share insights on growing a business, the evolution of digital marketing, and key strategies for success. Today, we'll be diving into the challenges and milestones in building Ready Outwork as a web design company, why custom website design is essential for business growth, how website marketing services helped us scale, and key lessons for entrepreneurs in digital marketing and web design. If you missed our last episode, be sure to check it out. Victor and I both discussed on how website marketing has evolved over the last 10 to 15 years, the impact of custom website design on brand success, and role of SEO, automation, and AI in web design. Lastly, we also touched on what businesses need to stay compliant and competitive in the digital marketing space. And then lastly, there's an exciting news. Victor and I will be heading to Vietnam for an SEO conference. It's a major industry event, so stay tuned for exclusive recaps, trends, and expert strategies to elevate your online presence. Before we start, I do have a sponsorship message. This episode is brought to you by Ready Outwork, where we deliver uniquely tailored digital marketing services to facilitate the long-term growth of your organization. At Ready Outwork, we combine data-driven insights with innovative design to help your organization succeed in digital age. Our team of experts specializes in custom websites, design, and marketing. We're here to help you amplify your traditional marketing with innovative and unexpected strategies. To learn more, visit readyoutwork.com. Let Ready Outwork discover your organization's full potential. Today, I'm joined once again by my business partner and co-founder, Victor Huynh. From our early days as a garage startup to becoming a leading website design company in Los Angeles, Victor has been instrumental in helping businesses grow through branding, digital strategy, custom websites in WordPress and Shopify. His expertise has guided our clients through the ever-changing digital landscape, delivering real results. We had a great conversation last week, and I'm excited to continue it today. So let's dive in. Victor, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Good to see everyone again. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah. So as our dialogue too, I like to maybe talk about scaling and maybe the lessons that we've learned along the way as Ready Outwork. So my first question to you, as a co-founder of Ready Outwork, what were some of the biggest challenges we faced in growing Ready Outwork into a full-service website design company?
I think one of the biggest challenge was finance, money, and also the fact that a lot of the things we're just rolling out, what we're doing today did not even exist when we started many years ago. So the biggest challenges were kind of figuring out the unknown step by step in real time, right? And self-financing. So for those of you guys that don't know, Ready Outwork started, we mentioned a garage startup. It literally was.
Mm-hmm.
We were trading sweat equity for just to kind of grow the business. So every dollar we earned went straight back into business and grew it $1 at a time to where we are today. Yeah,
Absolutely. So you mentioned a couple. So the main one was finance, cash flow, I guess.
money, yeah. Education, like learning about how to run a business, and learning about the product itself, because product development was an ongoing challenge, right?
Right.
What does the market want? How is the market evolving? So I think it's not knowledge and money
Right.
pretty well.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially in our field, digital marketing. What was digital marketing or website design 10 years ago? It's not what it is today. So we've been having to pivot and change quite a lot. So that actually, it's a good segue to my next question. how did expanding our services from web design to website marketing services help Ready Artwork stand out in the web design Los Angeles market as a whole?
Mhm, mhm. Yeah. So to answer that question, it really, goes back to how we ended up here today, right? Um, when we started, we were doing, we were print experts. We were not web people. We're print experts, design, we're formally trained in design. Um, and we saw an opportunity to kind of marry design with technology. Going from print, packaging, design, branding over to websites. And each time we pivoted, we took our existing knowledge and use it to help us develop the next product offering, right? People that had products needed websites, and so they needed someone that understand branding, brand positioning, retail sales, and everything. And how do we translate that to a digital format onto a website? From there, the next logical move was, well, I need traffic. I need, I need, I need people to see the beautiful website that you built for us. And so it evolved into the marketing side of the business and just kept progressing. We kept adding on to it to get to where we are today. And as we progressed forward, we also kind of it kept snowballing because the legacy knowledge that we knew kind of built upon itself, right? Um, Understanding design principles,
Mhm.
how does that build better websites? And then the fact that marketing, understanding how websites are built from a technical aspect and from a branding positioning aspect, right? How do you kind of tie those together? So you can't just look at one product and say, that's all I'm going to do. And everything else you learn just goes out the window, right? So you actually get stronger as you evolve forward and then also rely on your legacy knowledge. And also sometimes it's the new stuff that kind of comes back and educates what we are doing before too. So what we're doing before is completely different, even though it's a website design. It evolves and you change your lens as you're learning new things, right? As we think further ahead, how is AI going to impact not only marketing, but the website piece and the design branding piece too. So, it's a constantly evolving process.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for businesses, what are the key factors that they should consider when investing in a custom website design, whether it be Shopify or WordPress, or is there a big difference between the two?
Well, I would say the biggest determining factor is what you need out of a website, right? There are pros and cons to both platforms, and obviously the website ecosystem has more than these two platforms.
Hmm.
Uh, in 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 a general sense, we chose these two platforms because they cover the broadest use cases,
Yeah.
right? Are there other platforms? Yes, there are many other platforms that can do very specific things, but
Hmm.
we chose these to cover 80% of the scenarios that we typically cover, that we typically encounter in a B2B situation,
Hmm.
right? Um, so WordPress is going to be a lot more flexible when it comes to like design and functionality. You can do a lot of custom stuff to it. For Shopify, it's going to be a little bit more structured, but it allows a little bit more scalability. So, um, and then the e-commerce is obviously the highest performing, strongest e-commerce platform out there, right? So, if there's a e-commerce component to what you're doing, Shopify definitely is very helpful, right?
Right.
So that's why we have both of the platforms that cover most of the scenarios.
Okay, so for some B2B businesses, how can they utilize Shopify, for their operation? And what are some of the common setups that we help our customers with?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, like Shopify is very scalable when it comes to B2B. Most people think Shopify as like like some young kid that starts an e-commerce business and kind of just grows organically. But Shopify has some very powerful like enterprise level functionalities, specifically around like people with, for example, multiple distribution centers,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you have distribution centers across the US and you want to somehow feed it into your platform so that customers can have real time inventory, Shopify is able to integrate very well. The other thing is having multiple tiers. So you may have a scenario where you have different sizes of customers. It's some in traditional sense, people like to say like distributor, wholesaler, retailer,
Years, right?
right? You have different tiers, but
Mm-hmm.
from our experience, it's never that clean. Most businesses just kind of grow organically. They just throw random discounts at random customers. I like this customer, they get an extra 5% discount. Or, yeah, I've worked with this customer for the last 20 years and they're locked in at this discount rate, right? So it's not always that clear cut.
Mm-hmm.
In a perfect world, they would be broken down. You get 5, you get 10, you get 15% off, and so forth. And then we're able to kind of put them into tiers. But more likely than not, there's also the other scenario where we have a spreadsheet with 100 customers with 50 different pricing structures. And we can customize that so that, when, you know, Michael, the customer logs in, Michael sees Michael's pricing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in those types of B2B scenario, what's really common is they don't buy immediately when you're dealing with B2B sales. They would add something to a quote because
Mm-hmm.
you have to account for like a logistics. So shipping,
Right.
Is it a container? Is it a pallet?
Mm-hmm.
Is there, if it's cross border, is there tariffs? No
Mm-hmm.
tariffs, right? um, and all these other considerations that you can kind of customize that user experience.
Right.
Then it would kind of loop back, and the sales reps would be able to log in and see their customers' intent to purchase, right? Create a purchase order, so that whole flow can be built out in Shopify, and customers can then now scale, right? In terms of real time inventory and managing orders and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so just to recap, it sounds like what you're saying is what we've done a lot of for our customers are Shopify websites utilizing from a B2B perspective, where it's more like a online catalog rather than a actual B2C shopping site, right? You're not really going in to just buy something right away. You're using unique tiered logins that are assigned to specific customers where they can log in, they see their actual tier pricing that's unique to them, that's assigned to their account type. And we're utilizing Shopify's shopping cart for more of a cart to quote rather than for purchase. And then from there, they will distribute the POs or purchase order estimate requests to their internal sales team, whether they like to conduct it, online still, or they want to do it the traditional way with phones or fax machines, if you will.
Yeah, a lot of people shy away from it because it's so messy, right? Their processes, like you said, faxing an order in and things like that, right? But it can all be kind of built into a customer user experience, from having a dashboard, sending out promos, getting people to log in one centralized location. So once people discover that, oh, I can do all that, then that's usually when they get really excited, right?
Mhm.
Of what's possible. And I can actually organize everything into one user experience for
Mhm.
my customers versus,
Yeah.
most traditional B2B sales orgs are kind of messy from experience.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how about from a WordPress perspective? A lot of people think WordPress is just a blogging site, right? As a B2B business, how can I leverage WordPress for my organization?
Yeah. So on the flip side, I mentioned earlier that WordPress is very customizable. So what we've seen WordPress do really well, I mean, You can also integrate WooCommerce to have a similar impact of what I just described for Shopify. But the the thing is with WordPress is that from a design standpoint, you're going to have a lot more flexibility, so that that user experience, that dashboard,
Mm-hmm.
can be, if you have a more complicated user experience, like I want a custom dashboard, I want my, just not very typical use case, but if I want my customers to be able to chat amongst one another and have like a mini Facebook, if you will, right?
Yeah.
You can literally do that, right? It's so flexible.
Yeah, let's explain a little bit to I mean, you and I know, right, what WooCommerce is. Maybe explain to our listeners what WooCommerce is and how does it behave with WordPress?
Yeah. So the best description for WooCommerce is it's a plugin that sits on top of WordPress that is a shopping cart. So it's literally like getting WordPress and then putting a shopping cart plugin in there that integrates well with WordPress. So WooCommerce is built specifically for WordPress, whereas Shopify, it's shopping cart first and everything else kind of is built around it.
Right, right.
The WordPress is more CMS first, customer experience first, and then the WooCommerce sits on top of it as, I wouldn't say an afterthought. It's integrated really well, but it's not a shopping cart first platform. So
Right,
thanks for asking, for bringing it up.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So from a B2B perspective, that's using a WordPress website and they're not shopping cart. I A lot of our clients are more lead gen, so maybe you can explain a little bit about how to leverage that for their business.
Yeah, like as I mentioned, there's so much flexibility and it's such an easy platform to use. If it's set up properly, right? I'm not saying all WordPress sites are easy to use, because we've had clients that come to us with a opposite experience, right? If you can literally hard code everything in WordPress and make it a nightmare for your customers if you wanted to. But a properly built WordPress site that's properly connected front and back, right, is very easy to use with proper instructions, right? So given that, and you said another term like lead gen, right? B2B sales versus lead gen. So lead gen is going to be the front end, right? Where someone's kind of learning about you and they're interested in learning more about your service or product and they're reaching out, right? So part of that is lead generation, where you're putting out, you're messaging, you're testing out your value proposition. So these are all things of basically fancy words to tell people what you're selling and why they should buy from you, right? Now you can control those messaging a lot easier by creating a better user experience. So you can have easily put up a landing page with a form on it that then you can keep track of it and figure out, okay, the customers are resonating with this message more or this message more. This product is is doing a lot better, right? And you can test that and optimize your lead generation process a lot easier, a lot more flexible when it comes to WordPress. Not to say you cannot do those things on Shopify. You can, but then it's a more rigid of a system. And the other thing with Shopify is that they have all these functions that we're talking about, but the problem is that most of the time you have to add a plugin, either free or paid plugin extension that you add onto your Shopify. And now the reason why you bought Shopify or you chose Shopify, like being a high performance, like in terms of speed and performance, just went out the window when you add too many. It causes something we call bloat.
Right.
Basically, it gets really heavy, really fat with all these extra code. Every time you add a functionality, you add a plugin, right? And so that's one of the pros and cons between the two, right? Not to say that you cannot load a bunch of plugins on WordPress. You definitely can. But again, you can also customize a lot of things that would require a plugin on Shopify. So you can get away with some good code without having to have a plugin for everything on WordPress. So there's some give and take. The other biggest one is maintenance, obviously. Shopify it's a self-hosted system. So, your Shopify controls everything when it comes to hosting. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not like you say, hey, I want to upgrade this to a faster server. You
Mm-hmm.
can upgrade your plan, but you can't upgrade your server.
Right.
WordPress, at least the open source version, you can say, hey, I'm going to put it on this server to make my website run faster. I want
Mm-hmm.
to contact my host and say, hey, I want to, add more juice,
Mm-hmm.
more RAM, more CPU, and you can do that. So
Mm-hmm.
one gives you more control, one gives you less headache, if you will, from
Mm-hmm.
a maintenance standpoint, right? But then there's limitations of how far you can push it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, those are good points. So let's just say for organizations that are looking into scaling their B2B business, what are the biggest mistakes to avoid when they're getting into customizing their new website?
Um, being too narrow when they're looking at their website. Like a lot of times what we'll get when people are inquiring is, I'm looking for a B2B website. I'm looking for a website. They don't even realize the B2B term, right?
Right.
I'm looking for a website and I want this feature. Because
Mm-hmm.
last week we ran into this problem and the CEO says we need to solve this problem. So, and our
Mm-hmm.
website doesn't do it, right?
Right.
Which is fine. It is one or five of the line items that you need
Mm-hmm.
to kind of solve. But when you're so laser focused on just solving those specific things, sometimes you forget about all the other pieces that go into building a good website experience. So there are those technical things to worry about in terms of which platform. Um, and then also you need to think about your marketing, you
Yeah.
know, your long-term marketing goals.
Mm-hmm.
What are things I need to consider for SEO? What does Google like, right? What does Google dislike? We say Google
Mm-hmm.
because they're the
Yeah.
giant in the room, right? Um, we're looking at, are we running any advertising? Which types of advertising? Meta, TikTok, if it's relevant, Google ads, YouTube ads, any of those platforms. um, Email marketing. There's a big emphasis on first party data because we're starting to lose control of all these other platforms. um, so am I doing any in-person things like trade
Mm-hmm.
shows? Is it a big source of leads for me, and how do I bridge it with my website? And then the other stuff like the user experience, the dashboards, all
Right.
these things, right?
Right.
So you really need to take a holistic look at this, and
Mm-hmm.
also think of, how do I future proof as much as possible with the information I have today? How do I future proof my website, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, One of the biggest things we see is, and this is an industry wide issue. It's been right where
Mm-hmm.
people typically build a website and let it slowly die over the
Yeah.
next couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's outdated. I need to rebuild it again.
Mm-hmm.
And they go through this cycle of constantly, letting their website die and then kind of coming back. It's not really saving money. You
Mm-hmm.
know, if you have a good team that's constantly working on it, you know, um, thinking about your SEO, thinking about your conversions, right? Your lead gen,
Mm-hmm.
um, making changes that make sense, changing the colors of your buttons, your conversion rate optimization, CRO.
Mm-hmm.
These are ongoing things that you would see big companies do regularly, right?
Right.
That doesn't mean you would never need an overhaul,
Mm-hmm.
but that would maximize your return on investment instead of
Mm-hmm.
just having a influx. Okay, I built a really good website. Google loves it, and then
Mm-hmm.
it slowly slips down, and then I got to do it all over again, right? Uh,
Yeah.
so you know that I would say that is the biggest thing that you
Right.
want to avoid is getting out of that mindset of that this is a one-time thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think those are really good points. I know I play more of the director role here, so I'm really working alongside with the production team. So a lot of times we do see customers that come in that they do have existing websites that they built as a custom website, a year or two ago, or sometimes not very long ago. But
Mhm.
they sometimes forget, or their team, that helped them forget about a clear messaging, or branding, the website looks completely different than, maybe their trade show booth, or even their logo, right? Or you don't think about the user flow and user experience. What is the journey like? So, it has a poor UX, poor user experience. And then a lot of times, very surprising, but I think a lot of our customers, they might have had a website for 10 years, but they don't measure, they don't optimize, they don't measure, they don't have any tools looking at their metrics. They don't even have Google Analytics installed. So I think that's a really big missed opportunity. So any websites, even if it's like a theme site, a template site, or just a one pager, or a custom website, you should measure. Google Analytics is free. Install it and let it collect data for you so that you can make better decisions. The next time around.
Mhm.
Yeah. S- So I have one last question, Victor. What is one leadership or business lesson that had the biggest impact on Ready Artwork success?
I would say paying for knowledge.
Yeah.
I think, as I mentioned earlier, we built this whole organization on sweat equity from day
Hmm.
one, right? So it wasn't like we can run out and hire a bunch of experts to teach us. But as soon as we can afford it, right? I understand I don't know what I don't know.
Hmm.
And that's, you hear that a lot, but it's true. You really don't know what you don't know.
Hmm.
Um, so if you know, as soon as you can afford it, pay for expert advice, pay for other people's knowledge. Um, so I would say, that was probably one of the biggest um, leadership lesson, right?
Hmm.
Because a lot of times we're really, as founders from a small and homegrown business,
Right.
we tend to have that sweat equity mindset. Like,
Right. We think we can do everything ourselves.
right, we got this, or we can figure it out, right? I'll figure this out myself. Right.
Which we can.
Right. It's very doable, but you know, um, you realize as you get older that you can really shorten that time, and you
Right.
can always make more money.
Right.
so
Right.
so if I spend a little bit more money and I can shorten that learning curve,
Hmm.
it's worth the money, right?
Right.
So
Right. Shorten it also helps with the opportunity cost as well.
there's
Yeah.
opportunity costs, there's peace of mind, real stress relief. You
Right.
might live longer, right?
Right.
So I would say that's, if one thing, I want to share, is the biggest impact is really being open to paying for expertise, right? Joining masterminds, um, and just understanding, one of our three core values. One of them is be humble, right?
Hmm.
Understanding that you don't know everything, you don't know what you don't know, and if it's available for purchase, buy it, that knowledge.
Hmm. Yeah. Agree. Okay, well, that's a wrap for today's episode. We covered challenges and milestones of growing Ready Outwork as a website design company, why custom website design is crucial for business growth, how website marketing services helped us scale, and key lessons for entrepreneurs in digital marketing and web design. But the conversation doesn't end here. As mentioned, Victor and I are heading to Vietnam for an SEO conference where we'll bring you the latest insights and trends. So be sure to subscribe to the Raw Spotlight so you don't miss out on our next episodes. Victor, please remind us again where the listeners can connect with you.
As I mentioned, I'm trying to get more active on LinkedIn, so please look me up on LinkedIn. Mention the show, so I don't think it's some random spammers trying to sell me something. But yeah, happy to connect. If you guys heard this and want to connect with me on LinkedIn, please feel free to. I think Emily's active on there too. You
Yes,
can
I
connect
am.
with her as well. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Okay, well, for expert website marketing and custom website design, visit readyoutwork.com. We love to help your business grow. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Raw Spotlight podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.